We're live now. Good evening, all. Welcome to the 28th session of the CENTA webinar series for teachers. Today, we will focus on formative assessments, specifically in the context of the new national education policy. We have with us two really well-respected leaders from the education space in India, Ms. Meenal Srinivasan and Professor Mohan Garimella. Welcome, Meenal. Welcome, Professor Ram.
Thank you.
Wonderful to have you
Thank
with
you.
us this evening. As a quick introduction, Meenal is the CEO and Managing Trustee of Educo. She is an ICWA intermediate and holds an MBA in finance from Clark University, Massachusetts. She founded Educo in 2009, a partnership school with the Municipal Corporation of Greater Mumbai, with the dream of ensuring the prosperity of the underprivileged by providing them with free of cost quality education. She believes only in-service teacher training will ensure quality education, and the school has had an in-house pedagogy expert since its very inception. It's quite interesting. She works closely with the Department of Education, Municipal Corporation of Greater Mumbai, consulting them on teacher training and policy-related matters. She is also on the Education Committee of Mumbai First. Welcome, Meenal. Great to have you with us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Professor Mohan Garimella is the Pedagogy Director at Educo Saibaba Path MPS. He brings a rich experience of more than 3 decades in education to Educo. He has a long career in teacher training and assignments in the same. Professor Mohan has published books in science for UNICEF. After a long and illustrious career in the Royal University of Bhutan, Professor Mohan became the lead trainer for Save the Children India for 3 years. At Save the Children India, he was involved in the school excellence program at Municipal Corporation of Greater Mumbai. He joined Educo in 2016 and feels that by working in one school on the ground, he can achieve empirical results of his work. His immediate task is teaching skills and strategies, training, and execution. He intends to move learning indicators at Saibaba Path MPS by a significant factor. He has a BSc, a B.Ed honors, and an M.Ed. Wonderful to have you with us, Professor Ram. I'm sure all of us are really, really excited to explore 20 different types of formative assessments over the course of the next hour or so, because that's what we're going to do today. And Meenal and Professor, just a minor point before we start, just an announcement. The feedback form for today's session, we'll be sharing it here in the comment section itself towards the end of the session. So you need not go to my center for the feedback form. We'll be sharing it here itself towards the end of the session. So and the form is going to be active till 9 p.m. So yeah, so that's pretty much it from my side. Over to you, Meenal and Professor Ram.
Thank you. Thank you for such a complimentary introduction. It's really great to be here on your platform today. Just about Educo, our vision is to found a lifetime of prosperity, and the way we do it is through quality education. As we very well know, great teachers only ensure quality education, and all great teachers always expect great professional development. So that has been also a theme of the work that we do in service training and continuous professional development. We also train the municipal corporation teachers for the Olympiad. We also run some training and scholarship. Um, School partnership with the municipal corporation ensures that we have the pedagogy implemented on the ground. And that is sort of the of the session today. Professor Mohan is going to share 20 such practices that hopefully you can exercise tomorrow morning in your class. And over to Professor Mohan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Meenal ma'am. Thank you very much for all your good words. And we will immediately, actually, I can say that I am really privileged that I could see last week's session, and I will start continuing from there. Is the voice very clear? Can you all hear? Okay, we can start from the slides.
Yes, sir. We can hear you. We can hear you. Yeah.
Just to recap, the last session that CENTA conducted, there were 3 pillars. There's pedagogy, curriculum, and assessment. And today we're taking up the assessment pillar of the national education policy. Of course, lots to cover in an hour. Hope everybody received the pre-read. If you're not able to go through it, please do keep it open in front of you, because we will be going past the slides. That would be helpful. We'll also do some polling and ask questions. And last and not the least, please do share your questions in the chat box. We'd love to have an interactive session. Thank you.
Yes. Shall we go to the next slide, which is more important? Formative assessment and NEP 2020. That's what is going to be the discussion today. These are the objectives you can see on the screen. Explain shift from the treatment of in the new education policy. Implement 20 plus formative tools. Use formative tools. Difference between learning object-driven and learning outcomes. Implement competency-based learn. Difficulties between formative. Differentiate between formative assessment and summative assessment. And list the critical attributes of the NEP 2020. These are the objectives which we have. So let's go from the very beginning. I would like to start with the two paragraphs which were there in the NEP on the first assessment. So can we go to those next, please? Can we go to the next slide? Yes.
Professor, I'm sorry to make, sorry to intercept, but there seems to be a little bit of an echo. That's why I stopped the slide share at your end.
Let's go to the next slide.
I think, am I audible? Yeah, I think Professor Ram, if you,
Yes,
I think it's better now. I think it's better now. So we'll just resume. I'll just start with the slide share again. Yeah.
Yes. Right. Yeah, we have got a 2 minutes task for all the participants. The two paragraphs are given in the next two slides are taken from the NEP 2020. So please read those two paragraphs. You'll be given 2 minutes. This is the first paragraph. 1 minute for this. Can we go to the next paragraph, please? Next. So I have given an assessment for you for 2 minutes. Like this assessment is actually to take the two paragraphs and then rewrite those two paragraphs in one sentence of about 5 words. So please write it in your chat box, that one sentence with 5 words for compiling both the paragraphs. Can you see the chat box? Okay, next. I'll give you my sentence and let's see whether you can compare with that. So this is the $1 million statement, like we say $1 million question. The assessment will be formative. That is what? The assessment will be formative. That is the 5-word sentence which you can put both the paragraphs together and write. So now we will start discussing about the formative assessment. The formative assessment I'll discuss from about 5-6 angles. All right. The first one, I will again go back and then analyze those two paragraphs and then tell you how do the NDP people assess formative assessment. Okay, next. All right. So the analysis of assessment in NEP is they are conducted regularly, they are competency based, promote learning and development, test higher order skills such as analytic critical thinking and conceptual clarity, help teachers in knowing the weaknesses of the students, help students to identify their own weaknesses, and help to bring changes in the teaching learning process. So this is what NEP expects out of the assessment which is going to be taken next. So we need to make our formative assessment, as the NEP has said in the first paragraph. We'll have to make our formative assessment very, very competency based, and we'll also have to make it completely, higher order thinking skill based. Next. So this is the formative assessment cycle, which normally we take up in any kind of classroom. First of all, you write objectives, and then you have got some kind of targeted instruction. Then you have informed teaching. Then from the informed teaching, you find out whether the children have actually achieved or not. And then you respond to the data. The data, it tells you whether the children have actually achieved the objectives or not. And then accordingly, you make some kind of changes. And if all these things do not work, you then again go for completing the objectives again. And then the whole cycle continues. So this is the second way of thinking about the formative assessment. Next. So these are some of the definitions of formative assessment. The formative assessment says that formative assessment helps teachers to identify concepts that students are struggling to understand, concepts or skills, and then you want to bring some kind of change in your teaching methodology. So that is the most important formative assessment definition. Please try to understand that it is not supposed to be actually, given some kind of marks, which many people think. And we got many questions where they said, like, formative assessment, can it be graded? And what kind of grading should be taken up? See, the formative assessment is not that. Formative assessment is actually to make form a statement for instruction, and that comes after you assess the students and then take up the assessment properly and then try to modify the teaching. Next. So difference between the formative assessment and summative evaluation. See, the formative one is known as the assessment, and then the summative one is known as the evaluation. Please remember that. So we have given very clearly what is assessment and what is evaluation. Next. Yes. Okay. So that is what is the difference. Like, for example, here a wonderful example is given. Like here, formative assessment is meant for learning, and then summative assessment is of learning. And please read that the next sentence: when a cook tastes the soup, that is formative, but when the customer tastes the soup, that is summative, because he is evaluating the soup, and the cook is actually trying to improve the soup. So that is the difference between the formative and the summative. Let us take the first voting. Yes. And
We'll run a quick poll now to see your response to Mohan's guidance. Give us a few seconds. Running the poll. Question 1. Yeah. Yeah. I think the poll is taking some time. Shall we continue? Is the poll taking time? Okay, I think we have a bit of a data issue. We'll just continue with the presentation, and then once we can present the poll, we can continue with that. This slide is very important. It marks the key difference between formative and summative. We have looked at a lot of your questions, and I think a lot of confusion between what is a formative assessment and what is a summative assessment. So this slide is quite definitive. And once we understand this, then we'll go on to the 20 times of formative in the presentation. So will you continue?
I think that's enough. Yes. Next slide, please. Yeah, like here you are looking at the components of a lesson plan. These are the components normally. The list of materials, clear objectives, lesson introduction, lesson development, closure, recapitulation, and follow-up. These are the aspects which are normally taken up in a lesson plan. So what you find is, see, always you make the objectives, and after you make the objectives, you make the students practice that. And once they practice, then you want to see that they are converted into learning outcomes. Because all the objectives cannot be converted into learning outcomes. And then once they practice and put it into, actions, then you call them as learning outcomes. So if all the children have not achieved the learning outcomes, then you try to change either the style of teaching, you call some students, or you take an extra class. All these, you change your style of teaching completely. All these things will be done. So that is what is important in a formative assessment. You identify the weaknesses of the student and see what steps to be taken. I'm repeating it time and again. Next. So these are, now we are coming to some of the, formative assessments. The first one is hand signal. It is a very important formative tool where you can ask the students how many of you have understood, whether you have understood completely or not. So different types of thumbs up expressions, with the thumbs can be put up. So that is what, like, then they can also indicate with 1 finger, 2 fingers, 3 fingers, and 4 fingers how they are, how much of understanding they have actually got it. Let's go to the next one. Even for the hand signals, please go to the next slide. We can use HOTS, higher order thinking skills. Sometimes we feel that just for the hand signals, we might use very simple questions. But even for this also, we can use very higher order thinking skills. So that is what I have shown it here in the slide. Because as you know, like kidneys are the organs which were successfully transplanted. That those were the first organs. So nowadays there is a, no, please go back.
Yeah, Professor Ram, sorry to intervene again, but there seems to be a little bit of an echo. I think there might be another device nearby. May I request you to turn that off?
The slides, what happened?
No, I think there's a little bit of an echo at your end. Yeah. I've stopped the slide sharing because there's some echo at your end. So okay. I think there's another device nearby. If you can switch that device off, I think then the echo would stop.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's better.
You take it outside. No, take it out. That is not. Is it better now?
Yeah, it's better. It's better now. I think it's better now. Yeah. I think we can proceed with the next.
Sure?
Sorry, teacher. Sorry for the interruption. Yeah.
Yes. I'm also feeling very bad, actually, getting nervous because it's not moving in a harmony.
Sure.
Right. Let's look at the slides. Okay, so I was talking about this HOTS with the hand signals. We are talking about those kidney organ transplantation. There are some human rights organizations which say that the donation of kidneys should be completely stopped because the poor people are exploited completely. they don't have anything, so they give the kidneys. So this is the question asked, like, do you support this opinion, or what are some of the critical ethical issues associated with this? So that is what they can show it with their hand signals. So even for the hand signals, we can use higher, HOTS or higher order thinking skills. Next. So here you can see some pictures where children are using their hand signals. Again, next. So oral communication is something which you see everywhere. Like, that is the most dominating aspect in the class. But then still many people ask, should we assess oral communication? I mean, that is the funniest question which I find sometimes. So I have given a rubric, so that we can assess the oral communication properly. Now let's look at the rubrics in the next 2 slides.
This rubric has also been shared in your pre-read, because we will move the slide quickly. So if you want to refer to it, it is available in the pre-read document.
Next one. So it is talking about the various aspects, like here you can see the presentation, intuition, and then the creativity, the content understanding of the content. So various aspects could be taken. In the previous slide, we used the body language. How are his expressions? Whether somebody is talking just bending down like this and then talking, or is he facing the whole class? All these things are very important. So those things have to be put properly in a rubric, and then you can evaluate and then see that everything is developed properly in the students. Next.
Yes, we are also going to share how to do it online. There are some ideas of online formatives coming up.
The concept map, as you know, like, concept map is something where at the end of the class, you ask the students to put all the words on a paper and then establish relationships by drawing arrows and then indicating on the arrows what kind of relationship they have, the 2 words have. So that way they establish relationship on all the words, because all the words were taught in that particular class. So they are related to that lesson. So they do that. So that is the concept map. Now let's look at the next figure. Next slide. So you can see this is a simple concept map. Like in the concept map, the ideas are put in the circles, and then there are arrows, and on the arrows you see what is the relationship between the concepts that is indicated. Next. Exit card, as you know, like, that is what normally people say is a kind of certificate to go out of the class. But before you go out, you should inform the teacher. The student should inform the teacher how much they have understood about the lesson, what improvements can be brought up, and what things are still required to be explained. This kind of information they can give to the teacher. We had actually conducted one workshop for the MCGM teachers, and then there we found it, like, we had given some plain slips to the teachers, and then we found that they have decorated that very well, and then they wrote in Marathi, Hindi, and English, with very good handwriting. That itself was an indication that the workshop had gone very well. So these kind of exit cards could be used to find out how well your lesson had gone. Next. Next. So portfolio check, as you know, like, portfolios are actually the documents which are, collected for some particular period of time. It could be even 1 week, it could be a month, it could be a year. You collect all the works of the students and put it in the in a file, and then you keep it for assigning the students. So this could be a very good way of making a formative assessment portfolio. And then this can also be used online. In the next picture we have shown how can it be used online. Can we go to the next slide, please? Next one after this. These are also portfolios.
Somebody is requesting you to combine a little bit of Hindi also. So, if it's possible.
Access. Good. Yeah, sure.
देखिए
यहाँ
यहाँ पर
पर जो पोर्टफोलियो बनाया गया है, तो वो दैट इज एक्चुअली वी कॉल इट एज पैडलेट का पोर्टफोलियो है. पैडलेट में आप क्या करते हैं कि पैडलेट इज लाइक ए नोटिस बोर्ड ऑनलाइन. देयर आप सब कुछ जो बच्चों का जो चीजें हैं, जो भी उन्होंने लिखा है, जो भी उन्होंने बनाया है, जो भी उन्होंने किया है, वो सब वो पैडलेट पर रख सकते हैं, उसको एक फाइल में लगा सकते हैं, एंड देन यू कैन स्टोर इट फॉर ए वेरी लॉन्ग टाइम. एंड दैट इज द इम्पोर्टेंस ऑफ पैडलेट. ये ऑनलाइन के लिए बहुत ही वेरी गुड फॉर ऑनलाइन. एक्चुअली रिमोट टीचिंग के लिए बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है और बहुत सुविधाजनक से इसको वी कैन मेक इट. यस, नेक्स्ट वन. आइडिया स्पिनर. देखिए ये आइडिया स्पिनर है, इसमें 4 कॉलम्स है, 1 2 3 4. At the end of the class, what you do is you spin this, and whatever question is, whatever number comes, that question has to be answered by that particular group or that particular student. वो स्टूडेंट आंसर करेगा, नहीं तो वो ग्रुप आंसर करेगी. तो इसमें भी हम लोग हॉट्स यूज कर सकते हैं. हायर ऑर्डर थिंकिंग स्किल्स का क्वेश्चंस मैंने बनाया है, उसके 4 क्वेश्चंस है. वी कैन सी इन द नेक्स्ट स्लाइड. देखिए इसमें जो आजकल का एक फैशन हो गया है, एथलीट्स दे यूज दिस काइंड ऑफ एनाबॉलिक स्टेरॉइड्स. एक बार एक कंप्लेंट में आया था कि हम लोग का क्रिकेट टीम एशियाड में नहीं गया था बिकॉज they said it was a newspaper article. I don't know how true it is, that because of anabolic steroids will be exposed, that is why they did not go for Asia. These kind of things are always reporting. So उसी के ऊपर आप क्वेश्चन बना सकते हैं और उन लोगों को पूछ सकते हैं कि ये एनाबॉलिक स्टेरॉइड्स लेना ठीक है, whether he is cheating or not, और वो जो खा रहा है that is only for his health he is doing it, and he is not doing it actually to spoil his health. So this kind of questions can be asked, and then a spinner can be used, and then 1 2 3 4, whichever question comes, they can answer that. Okay, next slide. इनसाइड आउटसाइड सर्कल. इसमें देखिए 6 बच्चे अंदर हैं, 6 बच्चे बाहर हैं. तो इसमें क्या होता है कि ये लोग एक दूसरे को सवाल पूछते हैं. They quiz each other. One question is asked by one person, and then what happens, the other person gives the answer. उसके बाद जो आउटर सर्कल वाले हैं थोड़ा सा मूव कर जाता है, तो जो one more new group is formed, again they start quizzing each other. तो ये इनसाइड सर्कल एंड आउटसाइड सर्कल कहते हैं इसको हम लोग. तो इसमें भी अभी let's see how what type of questions can be asked and what could be done. Next. देखिए अभी नेक्स्ट स्लाइड में क्या हो रहा है. इसमें देखिए अगर सर्कल नहीं हो सकता है क्लास में, नो सर्कल, देन यू कैन इवन स्टैंड इन स्ट्रेट लाइंस बिकॉज वी हैव दिस स्पेस प्रॉब्लम इन आवर क्लासरूम्स. तो उसी के लिए आप लोग स्ट्रेट लाइन में स्टैंड हो सकते हैं, एंड देन यू कैन फाइंड दैट one can ask the question to the other person, and then they can quiz each other, and after some time that could be again the first person can change his position a little bit, and then a new group can be formed. Next. The summary frames, after you teach a lesson, you can ask them to describe the lesson. You can ask them to compare and contrast different types of characters or different problems which you had come across, and what could be the solutions for those problems. What were some of the causes for those problems? What kind of effect did it have in the story? How can we change it? All this could be put in a summary frame, and then you can ask the students to answer those questions. Next. Cubing is another one. Like here, you've got 6 sides. So on the 6 sides, you can have 6 questions, and then you can roll the cube and find out how it could be. Like, whoever gets whatever number, that could be answered by that particular student. See, all these things are done to create some kind of interest in the class. That is the most interesting aspect. You should be creating a motivating environment in the classroom. So that is very important. So can we see what there are 6 questions. These 6 questions are also again HOTS, higher order thinking questions. So let us see. See, this is about the carbon dioxide emission, which causes global warming. But then what happened? Because of American dominance, it was completely removed from the Rio summit. So we are asking various 6 questions like, what is a global warming? Why it is known as the greenhouse effect? Is it right to remove all those greenhouse targets from the list? And then what are the advantages or disadvantages during something like this to take steps now, or should we take steps up to the time we wait when the sea level increases, and then you find that some of the islands like Maldives and Sri Lanka, they're completely submerged, then only we will take action. And to actually retaliate this Rio summit, Maldives had once done something. They have actually, they have had a conference under the sea to show to the world that what you are doing is not right. So please have carbon targets. So these are some kind of higher order thinking which we should always cultivate among the students. So this should be done along with the formative assessment. It's not that formative assessment always has got a higher order thinking, but it is you people, the teachers, who need to incorporate this higher order thinking in the formative assessment. Next. So now here you can see the photograph that is there. Somebody is rolling the cube, and whatever question will come, accordingly they will be answering it. Now let's go to the next one. Next slide. Next slide is again a triangular prism. Like here you got 3 color codes. The red one, yellow one, and then blue one. If it is blue, then when the children show the blue color, that means they have understood very well. When it is red, just the opposite, and yellow is in between. All right. So we can see that even in this also we can have HOTS. That is what I'm trying to emphasize, that in every kind of formative assessment, you can have higher order thinking skills. So we will see what higher order thinking skills we have in the next slide. Let us see that. Next. See here, we say that people who are suffering from hepatitis B, this is a very important problem. Like even I think someone like Maharashtra Chief Minister also had a problem in the transplantation of liver. So hepatitis B, people who have got hepatitis B cannot have human liver transplantation. The liver of baboon can be transplanted in them. So we are asking now to the students, what special characteristics do you think a baboon liver has? I think they should think in various ways. Like one is it is resistant against hepatitis B. It is very close to the human beings. That is why the liver could be transplanted, etc., etc. All those things you need to, extract from the students. That is very important. Next. Here also we are seeing the students using different kinds of colored papers to indicate whether they have understood well, whether they have not understood what it is, or it needs to be explained again. That is what is shown in this photograph. Next. Next. Serendipity warm-up activity. Serendipity is a very funny word. Can we go back to the old slide, please? Serendipity. Serendipity activities. In the previous slide. Can we go back, please? Yes. So serendipity actually has come from a person called Serendip. No. Serendipity warm-up activities. Next one. Next one. Yep. So the serendipity warm-up activity is one which has come from the person called Serendip, who was actually in Sri Lanka, and then he somehow migrated to Persia. It's a history actually. And then this fellow used to do all kind of unwanted things, but then all those things will turn up ultimately to be very good achievements. So that is why anything which is not planned properly, but you can, if you can use that particular incident, say for example, somebody suddenly comes inside the class in a science class and says, sir, I'm finding that the water in the aquarium is going down. The level of water in the aquarium is going down. So can we now lead that statement of his and then convert that into a complete teaching class? That is what is important. Or suddenly when you go into a class during a Diwali time, you find that there is a cracker burst somewhere. And then you start from that cracker and then say, get into the air pollution, and then what are the bad effects of noise pollution. All these aspects could be talked about. That is what we call it as serendipity warm-up activity. You take some unplanned activity and then teach the whole lesson. Next. Can we go to the next slide? Yes, here it is a serendipity activity, which is mindfulness. Mindfulness can be sometimes taken up also as a serendipity, because suddenly you find that the children are sleeping. Then you can ask them to become mindful, and then they can, do some kind of spiritual activity so that, their concentration increases. The next one is homework. As you know, like homework is actually a follow-up activity, we call it, because after you taught the lesson, you can plan very well, and then in detail, you can have a complete diagnosis of children's understanding in the homework. If the homework becomes meaningless, that is what is shown in the next slide, then it is of no meaning. Like nowadays, people ask children to write cat for 100 times, or cat, rat, the spellings of different technical spellings which they don't know, for 20 times, 30 times. That is of no use. What is more important is you give some meaningful homework. And here it is homework for kinesthetic learners. Like people who are interested in some kind of bodily movements, they are interested in making various things, or, who have got this kinesthetic intelligence, or who have got this visual intelligence, they will be doing this. So that is why you should encourage this kind of work also for the students. Next. Next. So that is what we have shown in the last slide, homework that is meaningless. In a similar way, even in the classwork, if you see that the classwork is just given for the formality, then it doesn't make any kind of sense. But if you can give some higher order thinking skills, and you can go around and monitor, please, during the classwork, don't allow the students to come to you. It should be you who should be going around and then correcting their work. If they come, then unnecessarily there is a wastage of time. Please work that. I've seen in many classes, the teacher sits on the chair, and then he calls the students one by one. There is a long queue, and students, they start correcting it. That is meaningless. Please don't do at any cost. Okay, next.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah. This is the classwork example. Continue.
Yes, this is the other
Yes. This is the other
different types of classwork,
different types of
class
class
presentations.
presentations.
Different types of class presentations.
Different types of class presentations.
So class presentations.
So
Can you see the class presentations, please? Next slide. Some more class presentations. Next. Yes, here also children are presenting, and here the education officer who had come to our schools, he see the class presentations of the students. Here is the group activities. So these are the different types of class presentations which can be taken up. And all these things involve students. They are very, very enthusiastic to talk about what they have done. So please motivate them to do this. And there is also learning by doing over here. And then when they present, their confidence increases. So all these things have to be taken. See, whenever we do any kind of formative activity, we should think in terms of having the cognitive domain, the psychomotor domain, and the affective domain. All the three domains are put together, and then that formative activity is organized. Then only you'll have the 100% out of it. Let's go to the next slide. We can see some more presentations. Next one. Mini presentations. These are also class presentations, but at a smaller scale. Can we see some of these mini presentations, please? Like, these are the mini presentations which you can see in the classroom. In our school, they do quite a lot of this. See how happy the students are. That is what is more important. Can you see that smile on that girl? With, she's explaining, and then her parents had come, and then she's explaining to the teachers. And see, think about the amount of confidence they develop and the amount of happiness they have when they find that everyone is appreciating them for what they have done. So, I mean, that is what is very important to be incorporated in the formative activities. Next. Next. Yes. So now we have got this whip around. Sorry, whip around. Why did it? Yes, whip around in the classroom. In the whip around, what you do is you teach something in the class, and then you ask all the students to write 2 or 3 sentences. Like, for example, you are discussed about corona, and then you say, what are the 3 immediate measures which should be taken against corona? So all the students write. But sometimes if you have got, like 40 students in the classroom, then it is very difficult to make all the 40 students stand up and then make them sit one by one and then everyone to read. So then what you can do is you can divide them into groups, and then they can have the presentations in smaller groups. So that will be much better. And then that is very, very time saving. So that is how you can conduct the classes then. Okay, next. This is a cooperative jigsaw. I have seen this, many of the TFI students doing it. And then cooperative jigsaw is something which is very, it is actually a cooperative technique which can be used as a formative tool. It is actually a learning style, but then that should be used as a formative tool. So here you can see that there are 4 people in each group. Say, for example, they are trying to learn about stem, root, leaf, and flower. Then what happens? The red could be stem, the green could be root, the yellow could be flower, and then the blue could be fruit. Like that, you can find that different people become experts in different fields. At that time, the teacher guides them, and then these people can collect a lot of information from the internet. We have seen that the students really do. They collect a lot of information, and sometimes some of the information is flowing over the head of the teacher. So that is why they can collect all this information, they become experts, and then they come back again to the home group, and then they explain each one. Like the person who has become an expert on the stem, he will explain to the root, flower, and the fruit. And one who has become an expert on the root will explain to the stem, flower, and the fruit. So like that, they will be explaining other, and then you find that everyone then gains the knowledge. So everyone becomes a teacher over here. And then I'll show you next picture, learning pyramid. Can we see the next one? Can we go to the next one, please? Next. So you can see the learning pyramid, and in this pyramid, it has been shown that when you teach, you learn 90%. That is the best part of it. So you should make the students teach. Even when they are doing group presentations, they are actually teaching. So if you can create situations whereby children can teach others, then what happens? Their learning becomes 90%. Even you might have realized as teachers that when you are teaching, your learning has improved quite a lot than what it was before. So that is what is the best part in teaching. Tuitions whereby students can teach in the classroom. Let's go to the next one. Next slide. So here also he is teaching to explain whatever he has learned, whatever he has experimented, whatever he has done, he wants to demonstrate to the whole class. So his learning becomes 90%. Next, similar kind of situation in the classroom has been shown in the next picture. Here also these people are trying to teach to others in a group. So here also you find that the learning improves quite a lot. Next. Scamper, it's a wonderful activity. Again, it's a cooperative learning activity. But here what happens, like you have various things, like this is an acronym. So here it is, the acronym has come from the substitute, combine, adapt, magnify, put to other uses, then, eliminate, and so that becomes a scamper. The first letter from each one is taken, and then that becomes a scamper. So like, for example, you can say slow and steady wins the race. That is the very popular story of the hare and the rabbit, the hare and the tortoise. So that could be, you can tell them that please change the title to Fast and Furious Runs the Race. So you substitute the title and rewrite the story. Or you can combine some of the characters which are there in that and then add some more characters and then rewrite the story. All right. So that is how, like, you tell them to make various changes in whatever you have taught, and then the students, do it. So by this, what happens, their creativity improves quite a lot. The final level of Bloom's taxonomy, the synthesis, is actually brought in. So there, by doing this activity, you can improve synthesis among the students. So that is the best part of it. Next.
Audience members also saying a lot of confidence increases in the children. So that is also true.
Good. Yes. Let's go to the next one. See here, actually, I think the slide is very clear. If you can see here, we have asked children to modify the toothbrush in various ways. Like, can we make it as a kind of torchlight? Can we change the shape of the toothbrush so that it can go to all the angles of the mouth? And then can it be, the bristles can be changed to very soft ones? So how can you modify a toothbrush into various forms? That is what has been asked, and then they have done and then shown it to us. Next. This is publish, circle, and refine. This is a very, again, a cooperative learning activity, but this could be used as a very good formative tool. Like in this, what happens, say, for example, you're writing vision statements. So the vision statements are like, they, first of all, children come into a group of 4 or 6. They write, they publish those vision statements, and then one of them becomes a defender, and then the others will go around the class. They will go around and find out what others have written. They will read that, and then they'll come back and then refine their statements. So that is how there are 3, states or 3 stages in this to improve. First, they will write themselves, then they will go around and find out what others have done, and then they'll come back and refine it. That is what we call it as publish, circle, and refine. And here also you find a lot of teaching actually going on, and then the students enjoy it completely. Next. So this is a document they have done, and actually I was seeing it, in the classroom. I was trying to do this activity in the class in our school, and then it had come up wonderfully well. Can we go to the next, which is probably the final slide? This is the same thing, refine, like we have put the papers. Can we go to the next? Can we go to the next? Think, pair, and share. Think, pair, and share, like this is a very common activity in the classroom. Nowadays, it has become very common in all the schools. 2 children come together, they discuss about a particular idea, and then when they come to a consensus, that they share with the whole class. The same thing can also be said as think, pair, and square. In think, pair, and square, 4 people come together, and then they discuss about that particular idea or concept, and then when they come to a consensus, whatever consensus they have reached, that they will share with the whole class. Next. Next. Assessment during remote learning. So this is something like which you can see again the echo problem has. Yeah. Okay. So now it's gone. Here you can have again a Padlet, and in the Padlet here what happens is like someone was asking yesterday about a question like how can I do subjective questions in the remote teaching. So here is the answer for you. Like some children are drawing the water cycle. Here the girl is describing the water cycle in front of in the in front of the camera, you can say, and here she is explaining, making it a chart, and then she's explaining it. And here some people have made the models and then they're explaining it. And here also the girl is talking about the water cycle. Different people are doing in different ways the same thing, but it is subjective. It is not a multiple choice question, or it is not an objective type of question, fill in the blanks or name this. It is a completely subjective type of question, descriptive questions, and then they are, they put it on the Padlet and then they send it, to the teacher. So that is how you can use even this in the remote teaching. Next. Can we go to the next one? Probably that is, thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For your patience.
Thank you for all your compliments. We've been seeing them in the chat box. We also had received some questions earlier, and we will address them. Karthik, shall we address the questions, or is there any suggestion?
Sure. Thanks a lot, Ram sir. Thanks a lot for the wonderful presentation. And
Can't hear
I
you.
was going through the comments. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Okay, sure. No, it just was resonating Meenal's, feelings. I mean, I was going through the comments, and the teachers found it they found the session really, really informative. So thanks a lot for that. Just one quick thing, Meenal, before we, share the start of the questions, we'll just share the feedback link here in chat. A couple of teachers were asking for it. So we'll just share the feedback link in chat, and then we could proceed to, the questions.
Okay.
Thank you. We received a very interesting question by Madam Sunita, and she talked about doing CC with differentiated learning. And she said that when a student may be able to express the concept better in the form of a flow chart, student B may express the same concept better through diagrams, student C may write the answer and underline main points, while student D may not be able to do any of these activities but able to do the experiment in the lab and explain the concept very well. Is it possible for a teacher to provide multiple assessments in the same portion? Wouldn't it be time consuming? Until a basic test is conducted, how will the teacher be able to understand as to which type of assessment suits a child? First of all, hats off, Sunita. You are making tremendous effort and incorporating all pedagogy theories, and Professor Mohan will answer your question.
Yeah, I can see one more Gardner here, the theory of multiple intelligence. So multiple intelligence, I will know, like he says, different students have got different type of intelligence, and if that intelligence is exploited, then
Ram sir, sorry to interrupt, but there's a little bit of an echo at your place.
You can have the best.
Maybe turn off the device.
Second. Sorry, I think my mic.
Can be, I think.
Yeah. 1 second. I think when my mic is on, it echoes.
Yes. Is it better now? Can you hear me now, Karthik?
Yeah, I can hear you now clearly. Yeah, better.
Karthik, is it better now? Can I start?
Yes, yes, yes,
This is
yes, sir. You can
actually,
start. You're clear now.
like, in fact, you should bring different types of teachings. That is why stimulus variation or a variety in teaching learning process is very important. In a similar way, asking different type of questions also very important, because different children have got different degrees of multiple intelligence. So one child may be having a visual intelligence, some may be having kinesthetic intelligence, some may be having interpersonal intelligence. So if a person is having interpersonal intelligence, he will like to discuss with others and then give the answer. If someone is having a kinesthetic intelligence, try to make a model or make a chart or make some kind of very good instrument, and then he will try to do it. And if someone has got a visual intelligence, then he will use that intelligence to express himself. So this is how, like I can see that question is completely related to multiple intelligence. And then you should always have a variety of methods and varieties in your questioning and varieties in teaching styles is very, very important. Then you will always have much better results.
And one more question in that question, won't it be time consuming? So hats off to you. You're a very hardworking teacher if you have analyzed your students that way. And it will be time consuming, but you are all hardworking teachers. So congratulations, that's great effort on your part. The second question is, the summative assessment has n targets to calculate the improvement of students, that is the marks obtained. My question is then, how are we going to evaluate in formative assessment? Is just improvement enough, or does does is there a requirement to plan a target for each student and prepare them to reach that? Yeah. One more time.
See, I mean, the first important aspect is the formative assessments are normally not graded. Once you get into grading the formative questions, then it loses its importance, because then you are putting a price tag on that. you know the most important aspect is, like, you should find out the weaknesses of the students and work towards that. It should be very, very diagnostic. They say the other name for formative test is diagnostic. Of course, there are some people, some educationists, who differentiate also between the diagnostic and formative. They say the pre-test is more diagnostic, post-test is more diagnostic. But then, the formative test also has to be very, very diagnostic. You should find all the and then address accordingly. Then you'll see that the results will be yielded. And if you can think about making a very good, rubric, for each question, then that will give very good result. As I've shown it in case of the oral presentation, you can make a very, strong rubric and then address each area and then find out how well they have done it, and then what else can be done after that.
We've also shared the rubric in the pre-read. The next interesting question, how far formative assessments are useful than traditional unit tests in old pattern? And I'm sure Sir has a ready answer for that. Sir?
So unit test is not at all a formative test. Unit test is a summative test. See, summative test can be done at the end of a lesson. Summative test can be done at the end of a semester. Summative lessons could be done at the end of a week. So unit tests are done at the end of, that is why it is not a formative test. And then the formative or summative, it doesn't depend on the questions. It always depends on the intention. What intention you have. Like, if you are thinking in terms of finding the weaknesses of the students, whether they have understood the concept properly or not, understood the skills properly or not, and then what steps have to be taken, and how can I change my teaching learning strategy. They say the formative assessments are actually meant for the teachers and they are not meant for the students. So unit test is not at all a formative test. Please remember that it is a summative.
She also adds, in my opinion, as a government mathematics teacher has been in a difficult situation to assess different competencies of different grades pupils in rural area schools, as they have so much socioeconomic problem and are irregular to the schools. So the teachers feel it a burden to complete the syllabus in time. It's only my opinion, as my colleagues also felt. And thank you for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you for your wonderful question and joining the session. We also work in an underserved area where our children have migrated back to the village. And my opinion, and sir will add, is that if you do competency based and also ask them to refer to their textbook, at least in Mumbai, the government has given the textbooks to the children, and they've resourcefully managed to get them in their villages. That would be easy to follow up with the combination of maybe you calling them occasionally, asking them to follow a textbook, and asking a few competency based questions, and sir will add to that.
Yes. And the most important thing, whenever we say completing the syllabus, completing the syllabus by whom? If it has to be, the syllabus has to be completed by the teacher, then it is meaningless, until and unless the students complete the syllabus. And if the students have to complete the syllabus, then you'll have to go for the formative assessment. There is no other way. You'll have to find what success they had in completing that syllabus. And then you have to think about how can I change, what adjustments have to be made, what can I do. So there are a lot of questions after that. So that is what has to be seen. So that is very, very important. So don't think in terms of I have completed the syllabus. It doesn't make any meaning. The students need to complete the syllabus always. So that is the most important aspect.
Yeah. Another question is,
Well, it is for supervisors and coordinators. Why not the principles of assessment and various strategies to assess student learning still not given much importance during teacher interviews or demos? Rather than asking the teachers to prepare a lesson plan for a topic, can they not be asked to plan some innovative assessment strategies to assess a certain topic? Thank you. That's a great suggestion. I think we will take that up, but it's up to the supervisors and coordinators, many of whom may be on this session, and Professor Mohan will answer this question also.
Yes, congratulations. I mean, that's a great statement. We should actually do it. Why not? I mean, you can think about like how late we are. Sometimes people have even like some schools, teachers do not even plan lessons, but there at least they started lesson planning nowadays. And even in the interviews, they have checking their lesson plans. So, but what you said is 100% correct. That should be done. Why only lesson plans? Why not various other tools and techniques?
All right, so that should be
All right, so
taken into
that should be
consideration.
taken into consideration, and we'll try to recommend as many sources as possible.
Um, Next great question, and I don't know how much time we have, Karthik, but till you let me know, I will continue. Continuous
Sure, absolutely.
assessment.
We could take a couple of more questions, I guess. That should be
I
fine.
can't
Yeah.
hear you. What to say?
We will. Shall we go further?
Sure, absolutely. We'll take a couple of more questions. I think that should
Shall
be
we go
fine.
further?
Yeah, sure. I think we can take a couple of more questions. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I'm reading the next question. That is, continuous assessment helps teaching learning process, but how to make it more manageable and approachable for students and teachers equally, especially when we have a strength of 40 plus and different levels. So we have the same situation. We have 40 plus children sometimes, and we have different learning levels. I think it's a situation we're all facing, and Professor Mohan will answer that question.
Like one thing we can do very easily is probably like we can ask, come together. Say like the math teachers are doing concept mapping, the English teachers can do presentation of teaching aids, the social studies teachers can do think, pair and share. So what happens is different groups are done, and next time, like when you do in the next round of formative assessment, then the maths group can take up the assessment which the social studies teacher has taken, and the social studies teacher can take the one which the English teacher has taken, and the English teacher can do what the science teacher has taken. So as a result, what happens, the objectives of the formative assessment are at least achieved. That is more important. Or the second way of doing it is divide the children into groups and then give the work in groups. Like you can think about, you can assess the group first week, one group, second week, another group, third week, another group, fourth week, another group. Like that like that you can distribute among yourselves. That could be the other way of doing it, but we'll have to come to some kind of compromise.
And this is the next great question that the team really liked. In pandemic, all students and teachers are home. So how to conduct formative assessment? When we conduct when we conduct assessment online, supervising is difficult. Or at some places, child turns the camera off when he solves the assessment. So we can read between the line what you're trying to imply, and we do have a solution for that.
I'd really like to take it up.
I think, thank you, Professor Mohan. I think the easiest way to do this is ask a higher order question. And in that way, the whole family can come together and find out the answers. It will be a group learning for them. And everybody will open their books and try to solve the question. So there is no way you can do open book tests with the children and make them analyze and do taxonomy, because the goal here is learning. And in the learning goal, it's not always right answer, wrong answer. We can actually do an open book test and make sure that the child is reading and analyzing and answering the question. So cheating or any other concern will not be relevant at that point.
That's good. That's all.
Those are the questions
These
that
are
were
the
sent in.
questions.
If there are some questions in the chat, and Karthik, what do you suggest?
Yeah, I think we've run over a little bit. Say it's 6:10 now. So I'm also just going through the comments to see if there's a question that we could take. And also our colleague Priyanka was helping answer a few questions on the go. So that was helpful. There's a question from Miss Sajna Hamid. And Sajna ma'am is saying, and I've pinned the question onto the screen. By formative, we can assess whether the learner understands the concept taught clearly or not. If not, reteach and test again. I think she's making a comment in context of what was
Yes.
said earlier.
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean
Yes.
that's a very pertinent observation. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
So yeah, I'll probably just close the session with another wonderful comment. And Shravani ma'am says, from today's session, the new things I want to implement in my classroom are idea spinner, cubing, triangular prism. Thank you, sir, for sharing these. And there were around 1,000 teachers who were watching the session live, and I'm sure that all of them echo Shravani ma'am's sentiments, that all of us have a set of very concrete takeaways to go back and implement in our classrooms, even though it's in an online setting. So thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Ram sir, for this session. Thanks a lot, Meenal, for agreeing to do this session for us. We ran into a little bit of a technical snafu at the beginning, but I suppose we've recovered well. So I think that should be fine. Yeah. So the video is going to be available on a YouTube channel. It's going to be there. So you can come back and watch the session at your own pace. You can pause it, take notes, whatever you want to do. The video is going to be there on YouTube, so you can always come back and access it. And a couple of you also had questions about the pre-read. In case you were not able to access the pre-read, we're going to share that over email again. And more importantly, we are also going to put that up as a learning resource in the learning section of my center, so that it's always available for you whenever you want to access it. So that's going to be there at all points in time. So that's going to be there. So I think that's pretty much it from our side.
Thank you.
Thank you, Meenal.
I totally enjoyed reading the comments which Mohan sir missed, but I think in the recording you'll see all the wonderful compliments. It was a real pleasure to join. Sorry about the echo, and that we will sort. That took time to sort, and it's we'll have a great night's sleep with all these wonderful comments and not one criticism. So thank you so much.
We'll try best to bring you both back for another session. We'll definitely want to do that.
Right.
Thank you. Have a great evening ahead, everyone. And the link to the feedback form, it was shared multiple times in the comment section. So, I'll put that again there. So it's going to be open till 9 p.m. today. So please fill the feedback form in, and we'll send you the certificates by email tomorrow. So we're going to take care of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.